discussing what is happening in Israel right now. Call it a conflict, call it a war. Depending on who you're talking to, someone could say something different about it. Myself personally, though, right now, actually, I'm not following this. I tuned this out a long time ago for very many reasons we're going to talk about during this interview. But I did bring in my friend Dan here. Now, Dan and I have a long history, but he was born in Israel. He's actually Israeli soldier, and he's going to talk about his story as he talks about the truth between lines. Now, Dan, we go way back. Believe it or not, we actually met in the late 90s, okay? So we worked together. Dan was my boss, of all things. He was the general manager of a Radio Shack. I was a sales associate working my way through college. And through the power of social media, we just continue to stay in touch, which is really fantastic. And here we are, you know? So, Dan, tell us your story, more of the purpose of this. Let's start with where you're from.
Well, I was born in Haifa, Israel, in 1956, when dirt was invented. But for the purpose of this conversation, I think it's more important to note that my mother was born in the territory of Palestine, just about the time that the Ottoman Empire was at its decline, and just before World War I, or right about that time. So the British took over the territory of Palestine.
The British did, okay.
Yes. So it was not really it's not really about my story, because we're about to talk about Israel and whatever is happening there right now. It is important to note that during the Ottoman Empire times, the Palestine or the Palestinian territory was comprised of what we know today to be Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel, and I believe even parts of Iraq. And the Ottoman Empire, just like the Roman Empire, had their little governors of areas. What is known today to be Israel was not one whole part. What today's so-called Palestinians consider Palestine is what is today Israel, which was not all one part. It was sectioned off to different governors, if you will.
So, and this is about what year this was? 60s?
No, that's the end of the...
World War I, you're talking about?
Yeah, before World War I. World War I, the Ottoman Empire lost, right? And the British and the French took possession of the Palestinian territory, right? And
so it's still a territory. You're saying territory,
right?
So not a country, not a state,
right?
Territory,
right? That's correct. That's very accurate. Imperialism was at a decline, right? The Victorian era was over. The Ottomans were losing, and those were the biggest empires, right? And both the British and the French did not want to be imperialists of that area. So now that they have won that in war, they had to manage the population and do something with all of that. And it took time, it took arguments and issues and problems. And also the League of Nations was created, what is today the UN. And that was to make sure that peace will come to earth, and all of that wonderful stuff, which hasn't happened. But going back to the Palestinian territory in which my mother was born, right? Her birth certificate says Palestine AI, AI stands for Eretz Israel, the country of Israel.
Okay.
Okay? And so what is today Jordan and Israel was under British mandate and management, and Syria and Lebanon were under French mandate. They have liberated that territory from its previous empire. Something had to be done with that area. You know, you have a civilian population like my family, you know, and others who were living in Jerusalem, in Tzfat, in Beersheba, in Jaffa, you know, and something had to be resolved. So they were managing it that way with the idea that it would be returned to the people who live there. Now, of course, we all know what happened to Jews in Europe during World War II, right? But basically, the way they divided the territory was on religious basis, right? So a section for the Jews, Israel, which was not what the map today. It was a much more constrained area, which was guaranteed to wipe out the Jews from Israel. It was strange. And the rest was Transjordan, which was what's today Jordan. And the French separated Lebanon for the Christian Arabs and Syria for the Muslim Arabs.
Okay. All right. So we have these divine territories based on religion.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward, when do things change? Let's put it that way. When do it become states or countries?
Well, so I'm not sure. I don't remember my history date by date,
okay,
but I believe in 1940, I think it was during World War II that Lebanon got its independence as a state. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
It's not safe.
But in the 40s, let's say.
Yeah.
1940s.
Yeah, Lebanon got its statehood, as did Syria at the same time, and then Jordan got theirs, and then Israel, 1947, got the vote in the UN to make it a Jewish state.
1947. Okay.
Right. And then 1948, the War of Independence erupted, and it erupted because all of the Muslim states around us, I'm not sure that Syria has participated in that at the time, but certainly Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, I believe Saudi Arabia had their hand in it too, basically promised the Muslim citizenry of the new Jewish state to that they should leave because they're going to come in with force and send the Jews into the Mediterranean, right? And then they'll be able, once they win, they'll be able to come home again. So that created what we know today to be Palestinian refugees.
Okay. And which religion are Palestinians refugees?
Well, mostly Muslim.
Okay, so they're still Muslim. Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't the surrounding territories Muslim as well?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so how are they refugees, or who are they refugees from?
Because they left Israel.
Oh, I see. So they left the Jewish state of Israel.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Now,
Again,
not
this is all new to me, and I'm still learning because
no, that's
I just-
okay.
yeah,
If you
it's
don't ask
interesting.
questions,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have
Okay.
answers.
So they were living in what we know today as Israel, but a different religion than what the Jews were. So they decided to go to Palestine.
No, there was no Palestine.
Oh,
They
okay,
decided
all right, yeah.
they decided to immigrate to wherever was
Oh.
convenient. If it
Okay.
was Egypt, if it was the United States of America, if it was wherever.
Really? Okay, so that's even okay. So they're not even going to one particular country, state, territory.
Not that I know of.
They're just going as a group somewhere else. I
They,
see.
they weren't, refugees don't go as a group.
Yeah.
Refugees seek refuge on their own. And many did not leave Israel at all.
Okay. But
Right.
so the United Nations, or what was it before? The League of Nations.
League of
League of
Nations.
Nations decides around the 40s that Israel is the place for the Jews.
Yes.
Okay, and then so that they decided though, it's not Israel fighting or any other territory fighting. It's the whole League of Nations, which I assume is comprised of obviously multi nations, a lot.
The UN.
So it's everybody. It's everybody figuring this
You
out.
can,
that
yeah,
happens.
you could actually find a video of the voting on the issue in the UN.
Yeah.
And I think they even show it in movies here and there.
Yeah, because I mean, I hear a lot that that Israel kicked out the Palestinians. They started their, they
No,
did all. It's always their fault.
Right. That's not only untrue, but extremely untrue.
I think that's an important thing to tell people. Like, hey, that's not how it happened. It happened differently.
I had an
Read a
uncle.
history book, I
I had an uncle who was a sergeant in the British Mandate Police. He used to visit villages in the Galilee.
Okay.
There are a lot of Arab villages in the Galilee. There are some Christian, some Muslim, and some are mixed. Nazareth is mixed.
Yeah.
Nazareth is very mixed. Nazareth has Jews, Muslims, Christians, all, And when the news came that, the Arabs were recommending their brethren, so to speak, to flee with the promise of returning, he ran from village to village, whoever he knew, whatever muhtar, with the heads of the village, and begged them not to do so. Now, I'm not saying that in the since there was a war, that there wasn't anything untoward happen. I'm sure many things happened that are on their own are horrific stories, and are unpleasant, and no one wants to revisit them. But it's just anecdotal. It doesn't cover the big picture. And unfortunately for those, and I think, again, I'm not sure about my numbers, but I think the number of refugees were, and it's not a known fact, but and it's a pretty big spread, between 300,000 and 700,000.
Okay.
Not millions.
Not millions. Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, once the war was over and we won, like it or not, all of the Arab nations, from North Africa, Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Egypt, all the way to Iraq, right, have evicted all of their Jews. You have your refugees from Europe, from World War II, and then you have all of those refugees.
We're talking Jewish refugees.
Yes.
Yes, right. Okay, because we just went through World War II, obviously with Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all displaced and,
Mm-hmm.
being refugee. Okay, and you're saying all the other North Africa countries, Iraq, Iran, Middle East,
All the Arab countries.
is all going now, and they're all what's the adjective or the active of refugees? They're refugeeing, they're running, they're fleeing. What's that word? What's the word I can't think of right now?
They're fleeing.
They're fleeing. Okay, they are all fleeing
Actually,
from one territory state of.
Well, not to the one.
Okay.
A lot of them immigrated to the States,
Okay.
to Canada, wherever they would be welcome, wherever they feel they could make a future for themselves. Because at the end of the day, what any human being wants is to live in peace, to raise a family that could, prosper and succeed and watch their kids become better people and
Yeah. So this is all in the 40s then. Okay, so fast forward.
No, that's
No?
40s, 50s.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah. The Palestinians, they left in the 47.
They left in the 40s.
And then after that, later on down the road, decades later or whatever else, all the other countries wanted the Jewish people to leave their territories,
Right.
evict them. They fled, again, Israel and the rest of the world. Okay. So here we are, and now we got the 7-Day War. Talk about that. Is that
6-Day War?
6-Day War? Okay.
6-Day War?
I think it's a different war.
Well,
Yeah,
so you had the War of Independence,
Okay.
and then that was in 48. It's an ideology, but it's more than an ideology because ideology is something that you would absorb from just about anywhere, right? From your schooling, but this cultural ethnicity comes from home. I mean, the most glaring example is the desire and the drive of the Israelis that you could see today to keep people alive and not to cause harm as much as possible. Whereas on the other side, our enemy is willing to kill their own children in order to score points in the world's opinion. And that's something that we can't fight. That's a war that we can't really win, because that's what they're doing, and the world is proving today that they want us, the affected, to quit the war that the enemy started for really no reason that I could figure. They have all kinds of, for freedom, for what, but they had their freedom and they squandered it.
All right, so let's move to October 7th. Now, Biden is president. What year is this exactly? 2023? Yeah, okay. So 2023, October 7th.
I have it tattooed right away.
Oh, look at that. Wow. What does that say? Is that the date?
That's the Hebrew date.
Yep.
And this is the...
Okay. Okay, so this is obviously a major thing that's going on for not only for you, but okay, so the way I see it, and I'm the outsider looking in, I'm watching the news reports, I'm looking at a country that's being bombed, people are being taken as hostages, people are being murdered, women are being raped, then murdered, bodies set on fire, there's a whole thing going on with everything happening. And then the people that are doing this turn around and they jump into their foxholes, their tunnels that are underneath hospitals and underneath schools, and they're saying they're the victim. So am I wrong in that synopsis of this whole thing, or am I wrong about any of that?
Not that I know of. It's a travesty that no one could have imagined but the mind of a Islamist fanatic. Yeah. They could tell you that Israel is an apartheid state. That's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard. I mean, because Israel is probably the most diverse country, even though it's probably one of the smallest. The entire population of Israel is now maybe reaching 10 million. Out of that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 8 million are Jewish, but the rest are Muslim and Christian and Druze and Baha'i and anything. If you could dream it up, it's there.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, Israel has in the Supreme Court an Arab judge. An Arab judge who put a prime minister, ex-prime minister, in jail. What kind of apartheid state would even allow that?
Yeah.
And then I hear the outcry of genocide. Gaza is even much smaller than Israel, and it has a 2 million, or had a 2 million people population. Gaza has a very long border with Israel and a shorter one with Egypt. Why Egypt wouldn't allow Gazan refugees to leave when all that happened? Have to ask Egypt. I don't know. But they should have. But Israel did not stop Palestinian citizenry from leaving Gaza. Who stopped them? Hamas.
Okay. And who is that?
That's Hamas is the democratically elected government body.
Remind me what Gaza is versus Palestine.
Gaza is a strip of land which used to be part of Egypt until the Six-Day War.
Wow. Okay. Well, okay. And that's within the last century. I mean, Six-Day War was in
1976.
Yeah. I mean, geez. Okay. All right. Yeah.
When again the Arabs made the mistake of trying to attack Israel. Abdel Nasser, who was the president of Egypt, closed the Suez Canal, in essence choking Israel's economy, because to go into Africa or the Far East, Israel couldn't do it without going all the way around the Mediterranean. He removed the peacekeeping force that was on our border. He basically told them to take a hike, and they did. And we felt threatened. So, people tell you, oh, Israel took the first shot. Yeah, we took the first shot, because if we didn't, we would have been annihilated.
The first shot was when?
June 5th, 1967.
Okay, but I'm just saying, the first shot was 1967. It wasn't
No, the first shot of the Six-Day War.
Yeah. It wasn't 2023. We're talking back in the 60s. Okay, I just want to clarify who shot the first shot overall.
Well, no, there is no answer to that question.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
There is no answer to that question, and it's, I think, kind of irrelevant. I'm going to have to Google it. I don't remember his name. But if you want to know where it all started with a particular cleric, Muslim cleric in Jerusalem. He was installed by the British right after they took over. Remember our conversation about. Right. And as the head imam or something like that. And he was very good friends with Hitler.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's where the first shot started. He's the one who instigated pogroms in Jerusalem, in Hebron, and what we know today as the West Bank. We call it Judea and Samaria, where Jews come from, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. I think our conversation is getting a little confused.
We'll bring it back. My other biggest concern right now is the fact that Hamas still has hostages that they took on October 7th, And then I see reports like that we're bartering and we're giving back 100 soldiers of Hamas versus one single hostage that they took. So how is that fair that we're getting 100 soldiers back from one hostage that they took? That's why I just don't get. And that's why I don't understand why college students are running around doing all these boycotts and things, saying that Palestine and Hamas is the victims of the situation.
Because they're motivated by Hamas and other Muslim Brotherhood and other operatives, who are running around in colleges pretending to be students or philosophers,
right.
and idealists, and they're just they're motivating them.
Yeah, that's my issue. So how does this all end? How does it all stop? When do we get off this carnival ride?
Unfortunately, I don't see the end of this tunnel. On October 7th, 2023, I woke up in the morning and I got text message from my sister that she's in her safe room, which wasn't very safe. Wow. And that there's shots outside, and and it's kind of tense. And that was already, I looked at the timestamp, that was already, I want to say 6 or 7 hours after I saw it, after that it happened. She was in there for a good, I think I want to say 14 hours. Need to ask her to make sure. I don't know. But it's a very long time to be in a room where you just woke up out of bed, you went in there and closed yourself in there with a cell phone and no water and no bathroom, because these, never mind why. Yep. But the thing is, my immediate reaction was, we just need to go in there and just wipe the place out, But Jews don't work that way, and
well, let's pause there for a second, because understanding what a safe room is, I hope America understands what a safe room is, and the fact that she has one and she had to retreat to it. I mean, just think about that in the world. I mean, we talk about your safe spaces and everything else, and cuddling your teddy bear so that you feel better about it, and your pet dog that you can pet. They have a safe room to survive. I just want to point that out. That's my additions to it.
So I'll explain what a safe room is.
Well, yeah.
So my sister lives in a kibbutz, a community, 4 kilometers. I'm not sure how far that is. I think it's like 2.5 miles.
4 kilometers, yeah, probably. Yeah.
From Gaza. As Hamas started just shooting rockets, for years into Israel, her community, of course, was very affected. Yeah. And so they had, the government helped them build, they're facing west, right, towards Gaza. Right. So they each household had one room that was beefed up. Yeah. Basically, the walls were made thicker. The shutters were safety shutters, and that's it. But that was it. Mm-hmm. The door didn't lock, and that was by design, because all the concern was of rocket. So if somebody does get hit and they're incapacitated, someone could come and help them if the door is not locked. No one envisioned that that their neighbors would come and slaughter them, and go house to house, room to room, trying to cause them harm. You need to remember that a lot of those Palestinians, they used to work in their communities, yeah. And they used to help them. All of the communities along that border were very peaceniks, you know, and they would help them cross the border and get medical help if they needed it in Israeli hospitals, because all the hospitals that they had there that were, you know, spent millions of, they were okay, but they were very rudimentary.
Well, the hospitals they had have tunnels underneath them for the Hamas.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I heard that in a report. I'm sure it can be proven, which we can put that in the comments if you wanted to see that.
Well, I'm sure you heard of Sinwar. Sinwar, their head, their military head,
That's a person?
He was a person.
I'm thinking hospital name. Hospital.
Now he lives, now he's in hell.
Okay.
Courtesy of the Israeli Defense Forces. But he had a brain tumor, and he was fixed all up pretty in Israel.
Okay.
And that's the thanks he gave us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah. All right. So anything else? So we don't know how this is going to develop. We don't know what President Donald Trump's going to do, because pretty much no one knows what he's going to do until he does it, until he tells you on Truth Social or X. So I'm just curious what happens next and where this all goes. But I think it clears up a lot of things, that the questions, and that the media maybe not telling you everything and all the details of what's going on. So talk to your college professor, but listen to it with a grain of salt and understand that, hey, maybe they don't know what they're talking about.
I would have to add to this that this problem is much, much, much bigger than just Israel and Gaza and Palestinians. The problem is the inevitable Islamization of the world. The big players used to be Iran, not so much now, but Turkey are and just this whole cult of Islam. You could call it religion. I apologize. Has always their entire philosophy and their entire reason for being is to make the entire world peaceful, and the only way to do that is if everybody is Muslim. And they're working on it. Erdogan of Turkey is playing us real well so far. You know that he's part of EU and part of
European Union.
Yeah, European Union, and part of NATO. As far as NATO members, probably our strongest ally there, you know, but I'm not a politician. I don't know, but in my opinion, he should be kicked out from both. And Turkey started this a long time ago to nobody's, and nobody's really catching on. I don't know if you know, but Germany had a big immigration from Turkey, and it's not refugees, it's Turks.
Planned.
Right, and they're not, you know, we argue about immigration to America. I'm an immigrant, you know, I came from Israel. But everybody forgets that, first of all, we're talking about illegal immigration. And what we don't talk about in immigration, and I think it needs to be very important, is that the immigrant who immigrates wants to be an American, not an immigrant. He doesn't want to be a German American. He doesn't want to be an Irish American. He doesn't want to be a Turk American. He doesn't want, and if he does, he doesn't fit in.
So this has really been enlightening, because again, I had all these questions and things that I didn't understand. And so I see it, now we can talk about it. Talk about a person who's affected by all these things. I would say do your research, make sure you understand what you're protesting, rioting for, and just understand the situation, that the world is different, the world has changed, and we need to keep our eye on this for the future. So, Dan, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you first for having me, I should say, and just I appreciate it. But you told us all the truth between lines.